stand up.
Please stand.
Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation
under God,
indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We had some, trust me, in this community we got some real natural leaders, which you'll see today. I'd like to begin by saying, by making a small invocation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. آمين يا رب العالمين. We seek refuge with God from Satan, who is cursed. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Our Lord, we have wronged ourselves. If you do not forgive us and have mercy upon us, surely we will be lost forever. Accept our prayer. You are the Lord of all the worlds. I open up this prayer because this is the prayer of Prophet Adam and Eve. After they made a big mistake in the garden, they turned to repentance, to ask God to protect them so they're not lost forever. We're gathered here as an interfaith community for emergency preparedness event. Why? Because we belong to the human family. And we're all connected to each other. And we really find out how connected to each other if this earth shakes and it collapses. Then those who are prepared will be those who serve. And that's the point of why we're all here. To somehow get prepared to make a pledge, emergency preparedness pledge, and to prepare. And you're going to hear from some of the most remarkable people who God has allowed them to serve us, to help us get prepared. I'd like to say one thing real quick. I was fortunate enough to be here when they were building this mosque, and we went through a long process. And I have to thank two people who are not present. One is the founder of this mosque. He came to this country not speaking a word of English. And by the time he was done, he left a $7-8 million institution that he managed to get built with his friend who also is a student. The first was Dr. Khalil from Saudi Arabia. The second is Dr. Osman Kaldran, who's from Turkey. As students, they use all their resources to leave this community, this infrastructure we call a mosque. But it's here for all of us. Not just for Muslims, but for everybody. And for those who haven't been here before, feel like this is your house. And for those who've been here, like former Mayor Cooper, now Councilman, he knows he's always welcome. This is your house. So for those who haven't been here, you're welcome anytime. Now I'd like to invite Aline, who's one of the hosts of this program. Aline is one of the founding members of this community. His mother is present, who was like stand up, Auntie. I call her the Mother Teresa of Interfaith. She has pioneered interfaith in this community. Aline?
welcome you all with the Islamic greetings of peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. The Quran chapter 4 verse 36 says, "Be good to your parents, to your relatives, to orphans, to the needy, to neighbors, near and far." In that spirit, I'd like to introduce our neighbor from Temple Akiba, Rabbi Zach Shapiro. Rabbi Zach received his rabbinic ordination from Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in Cincinnati, Ohio. He has a BA in Spanish from Colby College, Westerville, Maine. ¿Cómo está? He was a High Holy Day Rabbi for Temple Israel in Johannesburg, South Africa in 2005. He was a Associate Rabbi, University Synagogue, Los Angeles from 1997 to 2005. And he has a long list of affiliations, just a few of them, because I don't want to read all of them, you'll be here for all day. His few of the affiliations are Board of Overseers of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Los Angeles campus. He's affiliated with the member of Central Conferences of American Rabbis, Reform, Executive Board member of the Los Angeles Board of Rabbis. Please welcome Rabbi Zach Shapiro.
Pleasure as always.
Shalom, salam, everyone. I bring you a hearty welcome from Temple Akiba right up the street. There's a story in the Torah, in the Bible, about Moses and the children of Israel when they're about to cross the desert and they get to the Red Sea. Actually, in the Bible, it's known as the Sea of Reeds. And they don't know what to do, because if they go forward, they're going to drown. If they go backward, they're going to regress into the kind of people they don't want to be. It's a true emergency situation. So what does Moses do? He begins to pray. And the text alone says that when Moses prayed, then God parted the sea. But that's not the full story. The rabbis of old wrestle with this, and they make up a midrash, a story within the story. And according to the midrash, God looks at Moses and says, "Moses, what the heck are you doing? You're about to be drowned by the sea. This is not a time to pray. This is a time to act." And according to this midrash, there's a guy named Nachshon. And Nachshon hears God's voice. And rather than praying, Nachshon takes a foot and puts it into the water. And when he hits the water, nothing happens. And Nachshon puts another foot in the water. The water comes up to here, nothing happens. Nachshon keeps on going into the sea, and not until the water's up to his nose, only at that point do the waters part, and the children of Israel walk onto dry land. Our rabbis are teaching us from this story that there's a time to pray and a time to act. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but we can't pretend that prayer alone will get us through an emergency. We have to take a physical leap of faith, put our foot in the water together, and try to figure out how to navigate those difficult waters so that we can get through any emergency together. May that be God's will. Amen.
When this mosque was founded, we have a long history with Temple Akiba down the street with the rabbi that was there before, so we can continue our neighborly relations with everyone. Now I want to make a slight change in the program in order, so I'd ask Noah to come introduce our next faith leader.
Hello, my name is Noah Nasir. I am an incoming 8th grader at the Culver City Middle School. I would like to introduce Bishop Larry Eastland. He is the Director of Interfaith Relationships for Southern California for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As a lay bishop in the church, he is a full-time international businessman with businesses on 4 continents. He was formerly staff assistant to the President of the United States, Gerald R. Ford and Ronald W. Reagan, a representative of 2 other presidents, and a Marine Corps officer. He earned his PhD from the University of Southern California.
This is our future right here. So what we're here to do is to make sure that that's a good future. There's nothing we can do about an emergency. That's in God's hands. But what we do when an emergency happens, that's in our hands. And so therefore, as we come together as Interfaith, recognizing we have 3 great challenges together. And that is, in this country, we have the challenge of faith, that people of faith can work together in order to make this community better and to prepare ourselves for those emergencies which will happen and which are far beyond our hands. The second is we have the challenge of our family. We are all one of God's family. We are all here together in this great cause that God has given to us and given us the opportunities to see that. And third, we have the wonderful privilege of living at a time and at a place here where we can enjoy the freedoms which are the greatest and which must therefore be handled in the kind of way where this young man and all those like him will continue to enjoy that. Emergency preparedness is something that is easy to explain but takes time and effort to put together. So for your sake, and for all the young people who are here and who will be served by that, we hope that we indeed honor you in your generation by doing our part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bishop. I'd like now to introduce another dynamic young leader, Jannah. Could you come and introduce our next faith leader?
Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to introduce Reverend Caroline Wilkins, a spiritual leader, life coach, and business consultant. She is a staff minister with the Agape International Spiritual Center in Culver City, and she is the director of their Global Works Ministry and manages philanthropic, interfaith, and intercultural outreach, and programs promoting peace and nonviolence in the world. Reverend Caroline's work is centered around principles of faith, creativity, beauty, and grace. Please welcome Reverend Caroline Wilkins.
Good morning, and I'm so happy to be here to represent Agape, your spiritual center down the street. We're here in Culver City, and most people don't see where we are because we don't have a big tower like this. But we have a very diverse community that comes together several times on Sunday and on Wednesday. At Agape, we talk about the presence of God as omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and omniactive. So I bring those thoughts to you in talking about emergency preparedness. That we must be omniscient, knowing in what needs to be done when there's a disaster. I've actually been through a full earthquake in Northern California, and I know what happens when things fall apart, when the earth beneath you shakes and houses fall. And I know that I am thankful for those who were prepared to help me out of home and help the neighborhood out of our home. So preparation is so important. The knowledge that you need to move forward in this act is something that we are so much appreciative, and the people who are here signing us up have already told me and informed me that there's not only preparation for the generic group of people, but there's special operations and techniques and support for people who are physically handicapped or need other help. So they're thinking ahead of what needs to happen. The other area is omnipotent. The power behind what has to happen comes from us all operating together. And the force that we can bring from having knowledge and understanding is so important. And then the fourth is omni-active. God is always active, always blossoming, always full of new presence and creativity. And we should operate in that image and likeness by being active in our community and making sure that the people who are part of our community understand when to move and when to pray. So I thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and bring you greetings from Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, our spiritual leader and founder. Peace and blessings.
I'd like to introduce Zaid. Zaid, tell us about yourself.
Hello, my name is Zaid and I'm in 9th grade next year. And I would like to welcome Randy Dobbs from Spiritual Assemblies of Baja Community.
Part of leadership training is not to lose the paper of your bio, so I don't want to put you on the spot. Sorry, Randy.
No, it's okay.
At least your introduction was a teachable moment.
Absolutely.
Please introduce yourself.
Well, actually, I think a teachable moment is the reason why we're here, because we all need to learn something about being prepared for emergencies. And as it was saying in the guide, there's 86% chance that there will be a 7.0 earthquake within the next 30 years. So the clock is ticking, we just don't know when. So we don't know what time it is. So I'd like to offer a prayer for assistance and protection. O thou kind Lord, we are servants of thy threshold, taking shelter at thy holy door. We seek no refuge, save only this strong pillar. Turn nowhere for a haven, but unto thy safekeeping. Protect us, bless us, support us, make us such that we shall love but thy good pleasure, utter only thy praise, follow only the pathway of truth, that we may become rich enough to dispense with all save thee, and receive our gifts from the sea of thy beneficence, that we may ever strive to exalt thy cause, and to spread thy sweet savors far and wide, that we may become oblivious of self, and occupied only with thee, and disown all else, and be caught up in thee. O thou provider, O thou forgiver, grant us thy grace and loving kindness, thy gifts and thy bestowals, and sustain us, that we may attain our goal. Thou art the powerful, the able, the knower, the seer, and verily thou art the generous, and verily thou art the all-merciful, and verily thou art the ever-forgiving, he to whom repentance is due, he who forgiveth even the most grievous of sins.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs, who's the Secretary of the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i Community. Thank you very much for the prayer. I'd like to introduce Chaplain Samir. Chaplain Samir. Chaplain Samir grew up in the community, and now he's currently the chaplain of the Sheriff's Department as one of the chaplains doing service to the faith community.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello and good morning for everybody. Before I introduce our next speaker, just a quick thank you to the FEMA Corps. Thank you very much for being here and helping to set this up. I was actually right in the epicenter of the 94 Northridge earthquake, and my house was destroyed in the earthquake, and we actually spent time in the FEMA tents that were set up. And as a child, I was very young, I was maybe about 5 or 6 during that time. And I remember during that time, the FEMA volunteers that were there, they set all the children up in a room and they were playing Go Fish with us for hours and hours and hours. And we weren't aware of the destruction and the chaos that was going outside. So for that childhood memory, I'd just like to say thank you for that. So just a quick thing, I'd like to introduce our next speaker as Miss Melissa Crandall. She's an officer representing the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice. It was an organization that was founded to promote religious tolerance, coexistence and interfaith dialogue. Now, Miss Marissa Crandall has many years of experience as a business manager in the consumer products industry and enjoys working with philanthropic endeavors. She earned a BA degree from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and has been a part-time faculty at Loyola Marymount University teaching dance. Melissa is proud to serve as the treasurer of the Institute so as to, in some small way, help the future of humanity. She's also currently pursuing an MA in nonprofit management from Antioch University. Let's all please give a warm welcome to our next speaker, Ms. Crandall.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the founder of the Institute could not be here today, my husband, Dr. Eric Greenberg, so I'm here in his stead. I'd like to let you know the mission of the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice is to promote religious tolerance, interfaith dialogue, and education about religions of the world as a pathway to world peace. I have a statement from Dr. Greenberg in his absence. Dear friends and neighbors of all faiths, I truly regret that I'm not able to attend in person. I'm grateful to Melissa Crandall, one of our officers, for attending, and I'm grateful to our friend and board member, Mohammed Khan, for inviting us to be part of this important event. Emergencies strike all communities without discrimination. As the Gospel of Matthew 5:45 says, God reigns on both the just and the unjust. So it is too simple of a stance to assume that because we consider ourselves to be numbered among the righteous, that we will never experience adversity. Sometimes God grants us adversity as a lesson, as a gift. For in sharing the burden of handling the unforeseen crises that face our communities, we bring our communities closer together. But for a moment, we can put aside our debates about whose conception of God is better or more accurate as we focus on problems that we can solve together, obstacles that we share in common. It's that much more important for us to pull together during times of crisis, so that through interfaith collaboration and in the act of peacemaking, we show to God that we are among the just and that we can care for and be a compassionate example to all. In times of economic adversity, or during natural disasters or even man-made ones, it is the duty of communities of faith to lead the way to safety, as well as to orderly and equitable distribution of resources. And it is up to each of us and our families to educate ourselves about the risks and the solutions to inuring ourselves against these risks. I want to thank the King Fahad Mosque for hosting Dr. Jannah Scott and for sharing very important information with our allied communities so that we can be thus educated. Blessings to you all, and if God chooses to test us with adversity, I pray that all of us will be able and ready to work together for the mutual benefit of our communities. With much love, Eric Greenberg, President of the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Mr. Ayman Abdul Noor, who's the co-founder of the Syrian Christians for Peace.
Ayman Abdelnour, co-founder of Syrian Christian for Peace. We are all over the world, and we have a big chapter here in Los Angeles also. I'm the publisher for the biggest magazine online in Syria, and I have a theology degree from Aramaic Church in Damascus. Our Father in heaven, Abunka Shmayu Tqaddash Ishmu. This is in Aramaic, which is Jesus Christ's language. We ask you to protect all of us in case of disaster and empower us to be prepared for emergencies. Syrian Christian for Peace, LA chapter, support this initiative that will take pledge to be prepared for earthquakes and disasters. And I thank Dr. Scott for spearheading this. Thank you.
Also, if you could stand Dr. Suhail Habal, who is a Syrian American Medical Doctor Association. He heads the chapter here in California, and obviously doctors are always concerned about emergencies. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Reverend Jannah Whelan, Church of Scientology International. Just want to say one thing. I attended the event that Reverend Jannah did, similar to this, and it inspired me, so thank you, Reverend.
Hello. I am really honored today to be here with this wonderful community of people who are concerned about our disaster preparedness. Can you hear me okay? Okay. The Church of Scientology understands the importance of being prepared for disasters and the need to be ready to help others in time of crisis. We have a global network of what we call volunteer ministers, which was established in the 1970s, and we are in over 120 countries. Our response teams have mobilized to over 140 disasters worldwide, including, of course, 9/11, Katrina, Superstorm Sandy, the Haiti earthquake, tsunami in Japan, and recently the Philippines. The purpose of the volunteer ministers is to help bring physical support and spiritual aid to those who have been hit by these crises. Our motto is, something can be done about it. Today we are honored to join you all in making the pledge to prepare, and we ask God to watch over us all in this vital work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to, because of the mayor's schedule and councilman, I'd like to just go out of line for a second, if you folks don't mind. I'd like to, Iman, is Iman ready? I'd like to have Iman come up, introduce yourselves, and our next guest.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My name is Iman Abdul Sadiq. I'm an incoming 10th grader at Palisades Charter High School. Megan Safley Wells is the mayor of Culver City, where she is serving on city council subcommittees, including Megan graduating UCLA with 2 bachelor's degrees in both world arts and cultures and French. She has traveled extensively studying visual anthropology, conducting sociological research, working as a translator, and a volunteer teacher. Megan's research in Madagascar brought home the importance of community interdependence and our relationship to natural resources. While living in Paris for 9 years, she learned about urban density, efficient and alternative modes of transit, and how city planning can improve quality of life. As a mother of 2 in Culver City schools and having cared for an elderly relative, Megan learned firsthand the importance of city services and many of the challenges our community faces. The Sustainability Subcommittee, which helps ban single-use plastic bags, is currently working toward establishing a citywide composting program, improving bike infrastructure, and promoting resource conservation and improving stormwater quality. The Regional Oil Operations Subcommittee is working on drafting an oil drilling ordinance to ensure safety of the community, while working with the regional and state agencies and electing officials to make responsible regulations to protect people and the environment. The city's liaisons with the school board are working with the school district to support schools and save money by coordinating projects. She is also the alternate member of the board of directors for the Los Angeles County Sanitation District Number 5 and the Exposition Line Construction Authority, which currently oversees the construction of Expo Phase 2. So now I give you Megan Wells.
Thank you for that introduction. So we've had very inspiring words from our faith community. I'm afraid that the state usually doesn't aspire as much, so I apologize. But my role here is, of course, very important, as is the role of my colleagues on the City Council, Councilmember Jim Clark and Councilmember and former Mayor Jeff Cooper. We're here to make everybody feel welcome, and I welcome you with all my heart to our beautiful city of Culver City. We want you, all communities, faith-based, and we also have community associations present here. We want you to feel welcome, we want you to feel equal, and we want you to feel empowered. We've got our new fire chief who is here. We've got, yes, congratulations. Our job may at times seem mundane, but we want to keep everybody together, keep everybody safe, and make sure that we are constantly striving to move forward. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be in this beautiful monument. It's my first time inside the mosque, and I can see I've already seen what a pillar of the community this mosque is. And so I just want to give all of you my thanks. You are helping us be a safer society, a safer community, and I look forward to working with all of you today and tomorrow for a beautiful future. Thank you.
Boy, we have some serious women leaders in this community, don't we? I just want to now introduce another faith leader. We kind of went out of schedule, so I apologize, Sister Nwala. So Nasser will introduce our next faith leader. Nasser is on the host committee. He's originally from Sudan, and this is Noah's dad.
Assalamu alaikum. I would love to introduce Nawla Priori. Nawla Priori is a member of the Catholic Church, the daughter of Mary and Joseph. She's a retired teacher and parish minister, and she's involved in several volunteer ministry. She lives in Palace Burdens at a retreat center.
Thank you, Nasser.
Yes.
Muhammad asked me to prepare a 1-minute prayer. So let's see how that goes. Ever-present, infinite Spirit of God, open our senses. Open us to sense your presence in us and in the heart of all creation. Be pleased, O Holy Spirit, to once again come down and breathe a soul of fire into our fragile lives, into our fragile world. Because we do not have a lasting city here on earth, we read very often in the Christian scriptures how important it is to be vigilant. And some of those sayings are, when you hear about wars and other destructive means, do not panic. Be constantly on your guard. Be like men awaiting their master's return from the wedding, so that when he arrives and knocks, you will open the door for him without delay. But Scripture is also full of hope. We're advised to keep our priorities straight and stop worrying. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added unto you. If God clothes the fields in such splendor, how much more will God provide for you? Do not be afraid, I am with you. Because we are aware that we live in a time of great uncertainty, environmentally, politically, economically, let us often pause and gather our senses calmly, assessing our true needs and making plans to address them. Holy Spirit, help us to take each day as a gift. In our troubles, come as peace. In our weakness, come as strength. In our darkness, come as light. In our sadness, come as joy. Protect us, Lord, while we are awake. Safeguard us when we are asleep, so that awake we may keep watch with Christ, and asleep rest in his peace. Amen.
Thank you, Sister. You know, just want to make a comment. Sister asked me earlier if it's okay if she mentions in the prayer Christ. This wouldn't be interfaith if we don't allow people to speak from their heart, from their faith tradition. So thank you, Sister, for honoring us with your prayer. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Steve Garulin. Sorry for the lengthiness of the program, I apologize. So we'll try to be brief. Thank you.
That was meant for me to be brief. Thank you, and I will certainly. My understanding was just to share briefly what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is doing with emergency preparedness within our own communities. And so I'm just going to share with you some principles here. First of all, to help the members to help themselves. What to do in the first few minutes of the disaster. Turning off the gas, making a counting of the family members, having a meeting place outside the home if it's necessary. To prepare the home for safety and make sure that there aren't dangerous spots within our own home where people might be injured. Preparing a 72-hour pack so that the first 72 hours will have the food and water that's necessary for in case the community hasn't reached them yet. Preparing a 3-month supply of food. All Latter-day Saints are encouraged to prepare at least a 3-month supply of food. That's for emergency preparedness, but even in financial emergency, in these times, economic times, many of our members are living on their 3-month supply of food because they're out of work or hindered. Water storage and purification. Preparing financial reserves and having cash on hand in case you don't have access to the banks or the credit cards or anything else. Personal records preservation, so that vital personal records are on hand and available and protected during this time. Basic first aid within the family and assisting with your neighbors. And then the congregation also works together to help each other. Emergency preparedness specialists in each of our congregations. A person is trained in this, and we provide a structure for contacting members. In our particular congregation, If there's an emergency, everyone has a little flag, a purple flag that they will post in their window, and that means we're okay. And everybody's assigned people to go visit in the neighborhood, and if they see the flag, then they can go to the next one. If they don't see the flag, they come into the house and try to help out and see what can be done. Prepare lists of trained medical, communications, etc. people that are within our congregation we can call upon to assist in an emergency. Train members in emergency communications. We have people, we have classes in shortwave radio, and people who are qualified to communicate, and then they meet and in our neighborhoods can communicate with each other and with the larger community. Prepare a list of government and community resources, and that's where we're coming together today to make contact. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support, and we as Latter-day Saints will be glad to work with everybody to bring about our safety.
Thank you very much. I would like now to go a little out of order again because of timing. I'd like to invite a very good friend of the community. Thank you, Mayor Rose. I'd like to invite a very good friend of the community who's always been here, and we actually consider him like, there's no membership to the mosque, but if there is, he's an honorary member. So I'd like to invite the current councilman and former city mayor, Councilman Jeffrey Cooper. Just for those of you who know Culver City, the mayors revolve. They take turns. So we're honored to have a great leader to join us again after many times joining us.
Thank you for that introduction. I don't always feel really worthy of that, but I appreciate that. It's amazing. We started about 10 o'clock today being part of the culture of Islam. That's pretty darn good. It's usually, being in that culture for the last 30 years, it's usually at least an hour later than it's usually scheduled. So my hat's off to Mohammed for pulling this off today. We've heard some amazing words, and it's great that there's so many leaders from so many different faiths that have come here today to really talk about emergency preparedness. A couple of things I'm going to say, I'm almost saying to myself, because you can take this information, you can hear it, you can prepare, but do you maintain it? I don't know, personally I feel that most people really get prepared after an earthquake or after an emergency, and it's sort of, really it's after the whole point of it. So by all of you being here today, it's a big step. Be it the leaders, everybody's here really is a leader here today, whether you're representing an organization or you just came here of your own volition to hear what you can do for yourself. It's taking these messages and going back to your family, going back to your friends, and encouraging them to be prepared and maintaining that preparedness and carrying it through. Even if there's not an emergency tomorrow or a week or a month or a year or a decade, but it's always maintaining it. It really makes a huge, huge difference. You're going to hear representatives of the federal government, Dr. Scott, state government, but and even your local government. I've got my colleague, Councilman Jim Clark. Wave, Jim, stand up, come alongside me. And the reason I want him alongside me because it's about all of us working as a team. As Interfaith, all these great leaders from all these different, representing different religions or different communities, or even as team members us on council. It's about working together, especially in emergency. With that, I'm going to introduce our fire chief, David White, who's going to tell you a little bit about how Culver City gets prepared. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Dave White. I'm the interim fire chief for the Culver City Fire Department. Disaster preparedness is a topic that's near and dear to the heart of every fire department. We have a saying, each day that passes from our last disaster brings us closer to the next one. So accordingly, I encourage you, I tell you it's your responsibility to plan for a disaster. For your sake, for your family's sake, and for your community's sake. You might be wondering how to get started, and the Culver City Fire Department can provide you with some resources on what you need to do to prepare for a disaster. First of all, I'd point you to our website, the City of Culver City website at culvercity.org. There is an emergency preparedness page that contains a lot of good information to help you get started on things you need to do. Having a kit, having a family reunification plan. While you're on the website, you can sign up to the alert and notification system, NIXL. If you live in the Culver City area, you'll get alerts from the police department and the fire department related to things that are happening, and we'll reach out to our community during a disaster using this system. Another resource we have to offer you is 3 times a year the fire department conducts community emergency response training. You can sign up for that on our website as well. And lastly, if you have a question or a problem as it relates to emergency preparedness, you can reach out to the fire department's emergency preparedness coordinator, Christine Para. That's her job, and she would love to hear from you and talk to you if you have a question or a problem. You can reach her by contacting our administrative offices. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Really thank the chief on the nice, sunny, sunshine day you're here with us. Thank you for putting extra hours to serve the community. I'd like to invite another young leader, Mr. Nouri. He'll introduce our next speaker.
All right, good morning. My name is Omar Nouri, and I just graduated high school, and I'm going to be introducing Mr. Shota Mikratouine. Okay, so Mr. Shota Mikratouine is the founder of EduLife, a nonprofit organization committed to saving and improving lives by offering free health education courses to all residents in Los Angeles County. Shota is also the founder of Critical Care Training Center, one of the largest training facilities in Southern California. In 2013, Critical Care trained 13,208 people on hands-only CPR skills. After serving in the United States Army Infantry as an infantryman, Shota furthered his commitment to saving lives by working as a trauma nurse in various emergency contexts. It is precisely his dedication to equipping others with the necessary skills to save lives that led to the establishment of these organizations. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and bring forward Shota.
Thank you for inviting me, for being here. So my name is Shota, and I am the founder of EduLife Institute, where we provide free healthcare education courses. Now, before I go into what we do and the big event that we have coming, I want to share a story with you guys real quick, real briefly. When I was 17, it's a bit of a personal story. When I was 17, I lost my grandpa to a heart attack at a public place. And I didn't take it well, as nobody else would. And I didn't know, I knew it could have been, the results could have been different. Essentially, by the time 911 showed up and they took him to a hospital, nothing could have been done. And I didn't know how I could make a difference, but I knew it wasn't the right thing. It shouldn't have happened. So it took me a while. I joined the military, came back, went to college, and the whole time I was trying to figure out there has to be something that could be done. So I became a registered nurse and working in the emergency room. I saw many other family members going through what I went through when I was 17. So when I told my dad that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to open my own business, and it was the CPR related, he said, well, what are you going to do with it? That was a question I had no idea. I had no answer to it. So took me 3 months. And when I went back to him and I said, Dad, the current survival rate in LA County is only 6.9%. That means 93.1% of the people don't have a favorable outcome because people around them don't know what to do. I said, I want to make a difference. I want to change statistics, at least in LA County. I mean, I would prefer the whole country, the whole world, but I'm only one. So, I'll take the city that I live in. So since then, for the past about six years, we've been providing free CPR classes in our center to anybody that wants to come in. Free, please come in, learn CPR, so that way you could help somebody that's in need. Because it is part of emergency preparedness. So, heart attacks is an emergency. So being the human that I am, towards the end, recently, maybe the beginning of the year, I started questioning, am I doing the right thing? Because, how do I know it's working? Training 30 people at a time. So 2 months before, planning our event, which is called CPR Block Party, we got a phone call in our office from a lady that called to thank us because she took a free CPR class and she was walking in downtown LA and somebody went unresponsive. She quickly acted, called 911, started CPR. Paramedics came, took the person to the hospital. Later on, she got a phone call saying that the person was in ICU and essentially survived. So they wanted to thank her, and in return, she called us to thank us. So when they called her in to meet the family members and the person, to see the person there, she asked if we could join her. I said it'll be an honor, to stand next to you as we meet the family. And the joy that I saw, for the family members, it was the biggest award that anybody could receive. And I spent, 5-6 years doing free CPR classes. And I was like, thank you, because that was my answering. I knew I was doing the right thing. Am I willing to do it again? I'm willing to go another 15 to 20 to 100 to save another. So, because of that, when we got the phone call and when we had an opportunity to meet the family, we started, we are doing a mass CPR training, and it's called the CPR Block Party. And what we want to do is we want to train every single person that shows up, takes the time to come in, a free CPR training, hands-only CPR. So on June 3rd, what we did is we partnered with Metro to provide the largest CPR training in the city of Los Angeles. So all major metro stations in Los Angeles on June 3rd from 6 a.m. all the way until 10 p.m. So opening of Metro up to closing of Metro, we will have people there to train the public on hands-only CPR. And and just to make sure that we capture more people, the same event at a different location in the valley, on June 7th, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to provide free CPR classes to anybody that comes in. And we're doing that, one, to educate the public, two, it's June 1st through the 7th is National CPR Awareness Week, to honor the National CPR Awareness Week. But I believe that it's not only for the National CPR Awareness Week that we need to do this. From where I'm standing, National CPR Awareness Week is every week. And we all need to take the time to get prepared. So having said that, I ask you guys to pledge to learn CPR, to encourage others, your family members, everybody else to learn CPR. Because being prepared is, is definitely the right thing. And knowing CPR is also the right thing. So without further ado, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. Thank you.
Banquet manager and one of our hosts, Najat, to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you all for being here. I am here for 14 years, volunteering most of the time in this beautiful house of Culver City. I would love to introduce this wonderful man, Mr. David Van Kenen. Mr. Van Kenen is a 15 years resident of Culver City. Mr. David is the founder and owner of D&E Associates, a local company providing IT and home automation services. He became involved with the community and city during the Tilden Terrace project. It is a beautiful project, I admire it. Mr. Mankinan currently serves as the president of the Dept Park Neighborhood Association and on Culver City's Planning Commission. One of the focus points for the Dept Park Association is emergency preparedness. Each year, the association has programs devoted to getting ready for a big one. And welcome, Mr. Davis Wells.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. As the introduction said, we founded the Tellison Park Neighborhood Association about 2 years ago, with one of the primary tenets being that we wanted to prepare the neighborhood for any emergencies that might come up. To do that, we wanted to bond together as a community. We wanted to prepare each other and understand our capabilities and who had what skills and background and training so that we could assist each other in the event of an emergency. It's very important that we be prepared to help ourselves because our emergency services just aren't plentiful enough to get to everybody quickly. They will respond, but when you think about it, at any given moment, Culver City only has about 18 firefighters on duty. That means if we have a major emergency here, they're not going to get to you quickly. That means that you have to be prepared to help yourselves. To that end, the Tellison Park Neighborhood Association meets monthly. We have programs related to emergency care. We have programs related to fire preparedness, fire prevention. We also have programs in CPR and emergency medical care. We also feel like that it's important for our community to be aware of what's going on in the city. So we often have programs related to events in the city and what's going on with our legislative bodies. Every member of the City Council has visited us and talked with us. We've also had representatives talking about water resources and telecommunications technologies and what's going on in our city. So we work very hard to have our citizens prepared and to help bond together as a community so that we're prepared to help each other. We meet typically on the second Tuesday of the month. Everybody is welcome, though the messages typically go out to our surrounding neighborhood here. So I know there are members of the Mosque that get our monthly emails, and we'd love to have all of you come join us. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Tellison Park and hope to see some of you there soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, sacrifice, and your dedication. I'd like to kind of speed up the program a little, so I'd like to have Mr. Tahir Dashah to come up. Actually, Tahir, before, please. I'd like to introduce Aisha Hajra to introduce our next speaker.
I'm Aisha and this is Hajra. We're twins and we're introducing Taylor Lindstrom. Taylor Lindstrom is an AmeriCorps NCC FEMA Corps member working with Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management. On LA County Pledge, we prepare country-wide invitation initiative aimed to get House of Worship and community-based organization participating in disaster preparedness activities.
She graduated from the University of Wisconsin-LA, crossed the major of communication and a double minor of sociology and a creative writing. She joined American Corps to give back to the community through national team-based service. Taylor will travel around the nation alongside 18 members, helping prepare the respondent to the disaster.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi, thank you everyone. I'm Taylor Lindstrom and I'm a member of the National Civilian Community Corps, FEMA Corps,
and I'm working here with a team of 9 other people with the Office of Emergency Management. We're working on the first annual Los Angeles County Pledge to Prepare. So if you haven't, after the speeches, we would love to hand out the emergency survival guides, as well as some other disaster preparedness brochures, and we're signing people up for Alert LA County. It's events like this that we're hoping to get the county partaking in to help get everybody prepared for disasters. And with that being said, I would like to present the next speaker. She's an amazing woman that we've been working with, helping with disasters. She's very active in disaster preparedness. She is currently the president of the nonprofit organization PAC-RED, which is the Preparedness and Awareness for Community Resilience in Emergencies and Disasters. She is the CEO of TRN, the Revelation Network. She is the First Lady of the Philadelphia Community Fellowship. She is the American Red Cross Ambassador for the City of Compton and a faith-based coordinator volunteer. Lady Alicia is also the faith sector leader for the Los Angeles Emergency Operations Center and the Citizen Stakeholder Network. And with great honor, I would like to present Lady Alicia Hamilton.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. All of the things that I'm involved with, I just have to share that when I started on this journey 2 years ago, I was like many of you sitting here. I was just a concerned citizen who became aware of the need for emergency preparedness because a friend of mine shared with me the checklist that they had. And when I saw what they were doing, I realized, I'm in big trouble. I don't do any of this. And so I started on this journey and started looking at resources in my community. Because as the First Lady of my church, I saw that I wasn't just responsible for my family, my immediate family. I had a congregation of people. And I asked them one day, how many of you have supplies, have water? They're like less than 10%. And I'm thinking, they're gonna come asking me what to do, and I'm not gonna know what to tell them. So I realized as a faith-based leader, we can only serve as well as we're prepared ourselves to serve. And so I started seeking out resources and was very fortunate to find that there were so many agencies that were willing to reach out and help. But it was a little overwhelming, to be honest, because there was just so many of them. And that's where we started PAC-RED, to help bridge that gap between the community and the agencies that wanted to reach the community and help them to prepare. And so I'm so grateful for the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Jannah, who has been in our city blessing us, trying to help us all get together. And then our recent program, our Pledge to Prepare, with Mr. Luke, who has had the county galvanizing our faith-based groups. And so it's so important because many people suffer what we call the normalcy bias. They can deal with what is normal to them, and when something happens outside of that, they either don't accept it, they reject it, they freeze, they don't know what to do. And when something happens that you're not prepared for, it's so important that you have a plan to fall back on. You can't figure out logically and safely the best choices in the middle of an emergency event. And so it's really up to us. I'm no different than you are sitting there now. If you haven't started, everything you do is going to help you. Nothing is a waste of time because every bit of water and food and things that you have will help you be more sustainable. In our country, we have over 300 million people, and 90% of those people do not have a plan. And that's according to the Wheaton University study by Dr. Aiden. So that means 280 million people potentially are going to be scared and panicking and not knowing what to do. So someone reached out to me and shared their information. I got prepared over the last 2 years working with these various agencies, and now it's my turn to give back at events like this and doing other things to help other people become prepared. So I ask you to join this mission to reduce these numbers, and starting with yourself and then reaching out to your community. We all can make a big difference. So I thank you so much and hope that you will pledge to prepare.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you're doing, and I know your hands are so full, taking the time out to come here and supporting this program, encouraging and inspiring us. We appreciate you for that. I'd like to bring another young leader up here, Arif. Arif, could you come and introduce yourself and the next speaker?
Hi, my name is Arif. I'm an incoming 6th grader to the Culver City Middle School, and I am honored today to represent Leslie Luke, the Chief Executive Office. He's also the Deputy Director of the Office of Emergency Management.
Well, we have to hand it to Arif to try to memorize it. So, thanks for trying to prepare.
Thank you, Arif.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks. My name is Leslie Luke. I'm the Deputy Director of Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. You've heard a number of speakers before me kind of talking about the prayer and the action side. So I'm here to kind of talk to you about the action side. We're working with the faith-based community because you have an opportunity to provide and amplify the message that we're trying to put in the community on a daily basis. What we want people to do is be prepared. Know the steps that you need to take before that event actually happens. The guys at the FEMA Corps have been talking about over to the table here, kind of give you the steps on what you need to do before, during, and after the disaster. And the fire chief and someone else mentioned about the number of firemen and first responders in our community. You're pretty much a first responder yourself. You're going to be the first one that actually sees that incident before you start calling 911. So if you've already gone through the Red Cross training or the training for the CPR and first aid, you know exactly what you need to do to be able to enact some change there. And if it is a major disaster, it doesn't matter what it actually is. If you've been prepared, you get that and you respond and you've gone through the training and you continue to do that and reinforce that with your families, you'll know what you need to do. You'll react versus panicking. If we call you and tell you you only have 5 minutes to get out of your house, it shouldn't matter why. You should just know what you need to have. It's not that moment that you need to start trying to find out what it is you need to take, the important papers, the things you have to have. If it's during the day, you need to know how to be able to get in communication, stay in communication and contact with your families. Being able to text. Cell phones, the phone lines are probably not going to be available for you. Know how to text. Be able to communicate with each other. Have an out-of-state contact that you can actually call to be able to share that information. You probably have an easier chance making that one long-distance phone call than your own local call. So those are the things that we want you to kind of be able to take into effect, into account now, not waiting. Not waiting for the next earthquake or aftershock that we actually have to start saying, what should I have done? Because it might be the last one or maybe the most devastating one that you actually have. You may not have a chance to do that the next time. So as the fire chief is talking about CERT. If you live in the city here, take the opportunity to help your neighbors. You know in your community who needs help. You know who lives alone, who doesn't have a vehicle. We can't do that. There's 10 million people in this county. I can't go out and touch and talk to every one of them. So we need your help to be able to do that. People are talking about seeing, watching, and seeing other people do things. We're asking you to be able to do that for us also. So for the faith leaders who are actually doing that and amplifying and preparing and helping us with our Pledge to Prepare campaign, I thank you. For those of you here today, take the guide, register your cell phones. We have access to your home phone numbers. We don't for yourselves. Those of you who use cell phones as your home phone can't get any type of messaging from us. We don't have those phone numbers. So as the chief said, they will be able to contact you, the county will be able to contact you. It's only for emergencies. We're not calling to tell you trivial things or bother you with other type of information. It's the only things that are going to end up helping you, things that you're going to need to know and be able to do during an actual event. So thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. For those of you who don't know about the Pledge Prepared, there's some information on here. I thank you, Brother Muhammad, for what you've actually done, and thanks for your opportunity.
Thank you very much. We really thank the Deputy Director, Mr. Leslie Luke, for also taking your day out and taking this very serious on a nice Sunday to educate us and inform us and let you know about the let us know about the resources available. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce a very unique gentleman who's on the host committee and part of the community here. I won't give a long introduction, but I'll tell you one thing. This man was born and raised in Ethiopia. His name is Mr. Bishar Tyre. Ethiopia is in East Africa, for those of you who are not clear where it is. He was a survivor of torture, physical and psychological. He was left to die in a war-stricken environment. And long story short, 20 plus years out as a refugee, when he went back to the country, his homeland, he went and he forgave his torturer. And he planted trees for peace with Muslims and Christians. So he's really a peacemaker, and his daughter is a very special person in our community. So I asked him, Mr. Tyre, could you come introduce your daughter, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome you and thank you in advance for being and participating in our community emergency preparedness program. And I would like to introduce my daughter Hayat Tahir. She is faithful, honoring her community, serving with humility. She is a student of Santa Monica College. Her passion is to be an educator for young disabled members of our community. She is known as a bike girl. That is her choice for transportation. Physically fit, healthy, and she has a black belt, serving the community to make a difference. And Hayat Tahir.
I'm doing a bio for Jannah Scott. She's a strategist, planner, advisor, public policy and engagement expert. Jannah Scott has served in many capacities with government, faith, and nonprofit communities. In March of 2009, Jannah joined the President Obama administration and then Secretary Napolitano as Deputy Director, Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. In that role, Jannah guides the engagement of faith-based community group on issue of emergency preparedness, community resilience, incident response, accessing immigration benefits, and other issues within Homeland Security. Her most recent endeavors include engagement in projects to model whole communities' involvement in Homeland Security issues and development of policy standards and protocol for government work with faith-based community groups. Jannah also helps groups get connected with President Obama's White House Office for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership and other federal centers for faith-based community initiative for the Department of Health, Human Services, and Commerce, the USAID, Agricultural, Labor, Veterans Affairs, Housing, Urban Development, Education, Corporation for National Services, Justice, Small Business Administration, and Environmental Protection Agency for the newest center at the Department of State. Jannah also served the National Government Committee to ensure inclusion of faith-based perspective, including the White House National Security Council, Community Partnership Committee, National Engagement Task Force, DHS, National Resilient Integration Committee, DHS working groups on counter-violent extremism, and Federal Aid Emergency Management Agency, FEMA Policy Committee. Jannah received a graduate degree from University of California, Berkeley, and Desert Rose Christian College in Phoenix, Arizona. Jannah is a mother of 5 young men and women and a woman of God, grandmother of 5 grandsons, 4 granddaughters. Her passion is to see people everywhere achieve their God-given potential, living in an atmosphere where love, dignity, and righteousness and justice prevail.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. And I wanted the young people to stand with me. I know there's more of you than that. Weren't they great this morning? Oh, they might be upstairs and outside. And also I'd like to ask our FEMA Corps colleagues, I think there are 2 or 3 here, to come and stand with me. Because these young people are really what this is all about. For me, this is kind of a swan song, so to speak. It's time for me to pass the mantle, really, to the young people. And for us as communities to acknowledge that we need to raise up a generation of people who are really prepared to do this work. Not just when a disaster occurs, but when there's peacetime, when there's steady state. So I thank God for the young people, and I say, let's give them a round of applause. Now here's your first test in preparedness, if you can stand with me while I speak for a few minutes. Okay? You don't do that, young man? Okay. Well, to the Honorable Mayor Sahi Wells in her absence, and to the Honorable Clark and Cooper, thank you for what you're doing in this city. And to Fire Chief for being so transparent about what the real deal is in this city and how we really do need to partner with people of faith and community in times of disaster. And I want to take just a moment to really honor the King Fahad Mosque and its Interfaith Director, Mr. Mohammed Khan. We came to him and Director Patel, who I don't see him today. Is he here? Okay, Director Patel, thank you very much, please. And also to the Deputy Director Kadri, who I met this morning. We came to them less than a month ago and asked them if they would partner with us to do this work of not only reaching out to Culver City, but also being an example for people all over this county of how houses of worship can help not only their own communities, but also everybody else prepare in times of emergency. So we honor you, gentlemen, and I know that you receive beautiful gift in paradise for the work that you've done here on earth. And so God bless you for your efforts. Thank you. Now let me ask you while you're here, did anybody learn anything new today? If you did, I just want you to raise your hand. Okay, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that. Because as I heard all of the interfaith speakers speak, and weren't they great? Thank God for you all who lead people of faith. Your expressions of faith, but also your words of wisdom were very welcome today. And as I heard them speaking, I kind of wanted to lean over to Deputy Luke and say, well, gee, I don't know, maybe they're already doing enough here. Maybe we didn't need to come here. But I'm glad that somebody at least learned something new today. How many of you met a new partner today? That's wonderful. That is excellent. I encourage you, if you haven't, before you leave this beautiful edifice today, especially if you haven't met any of these gentlemen or the sister who also has been a great support, stop and meet somebody new and say to them, I'm going to pledge to prepare.
I'm going to pledge to prepare.
All right. That's what we should do before we go out, right? Just greet somebody even with a high five and say, I'm going to pledge to prepare. Okay? That's right. That's right. I wanted to just share a few words on behalf of the President, who I have the privilege of working as one of his appointees in Homeland Security, now a little over 5 years, actually. So we've seen many incidents, whether it be Superstorm Sandy or whether it was the rivers that overflowed in the Midwest, or whether it was the BP oil spill, or whether it was the of Newtown or Aurora, or the Oak Creek, Sikudwara, or most recently Santa Barbara. We've seen man-made disasters, we've seen natural disasters. And one truth has threaded throughout each and every one. And that is that even before government hits the scene, there is somebody from a faith community who is already there. Even at Boston, do you know that there was a big church right two buildings down from where the bombing occurred? And there were people in that church. They were actually hosting a water station. Every single one. The faith community is always the first on the scene. Now, we don't have a problem with that in government because we know we cannot do it alone. The gentleman who was here from the Tellefson Neighborhood Association talked about the numbers in the city of Culver City, Fire Chief. I don't know if those were correct or not, but if they were, that's pretty important for us to understand that there are only at any given time 18 people for a population of how many? 39,000. I've heard the numbers, Leslie, for the city of LA, 4,000 for a city of 4 million. So we've got to have ourselves ready, not only to help ourselves, but to help those around us. And we've got to pass the mantle to our young people so that they can learn too how to help themselves and help others. We have actually activities for young people. Teen Community Emergency Response. I know Brother Terry Walker's here today. He's taught these classes. We'd love to see more of these classes offered in houses of worship so that young people can get these skills too, and even begin to think about careers in public safety. As part of Pledge to Prepare, we know that LA County Fire has agreed to offer 15 additional courses this summer so that we can get more people and more young people prepared. I also want to make the point that every disaster is local. So while I'm here with the federal government, with FEMA, even on behalf of the president, we will not be the first ones to be here when a disaster hits. The way it happens is that if something happened in the city of Culver City, your fire chief would have to determine and make a report to your mayor that it's too big for the city to handle. And your mayor would then have to make a report to your county that it's too big for the city to handle. Your county would then have to make a report to the state governor to say it's too big for LA County to handle. And then your governor would have to request for the federal government support to come in. Now, after Katrina, we know that if we at the federal level obviously see that it's too big for you all to handle, we're not going to wait on those reports. But the truth of the matter is, we at the federal level want to respect the jurisdictional authority. And so as you deal with local disasters, it's important for you to know your local people, the Ms. Para that the chief mentioned, Mr. Luke and his staff, and people like Alicia Hamilton and Janet Weiland who work all around the county engaging faith groups. And the one thing I want to say is that while you are getting to know them, you're also getting to know each other. And you carry three very critical roles in your community day to day. Whether or not there's a disaster, how many of you know that faith leaders are a prophetic voice? Brother Askia knows. You are a prophetic voice. And when I say a prophetic voice, I don't mean that you walk in the office of the prophet. I mean that your voice, your words have the ability to activate, to bring action, if the rabbi is still here. I don't see him, but as the rabbi said, to bring action, to get people to take action. So you are that prophetic voice, and we ask that you be that prophetic voice to really come against a spirit of complacency. We always talk about the big one, right, Leslie? The big one, the big one, the big one, the big one. And, you know, pretty soon people are getting tired about hearing about the big one, the big one, the big one. The big one hasn't hit since whenever. But the truth of the matter is, this area of the country is actually at risk for 14 of the 16 named disasters in the federal law that governs disaster response. 14 of them. And I can't name all 14, but think about it. Windstorm, wildfire, chemical spill, tsunami, rail accident, plane, things that cause a plane to go down. You have a big issue at with planes, earthquake, of course. So think about that. It's not just the big one that people need to get prepared for. It's actually the neighborhood house fire or the apartment building that burns down, which for those people is a terrible disaster. And the people of faith are becoming more and more important in helping us fill the gap where government cannot help. So you're a prophetic voice. You're also, or you can be, a prepared force. Think about all this energy within the bodies of these young people, huh? We were doing this kind of work in Miami-Dade, Florida recently, and they were talking about the fact that they had seniors that were low income and who lived in these 15-story high apartment buildings. And Miami gets a lot of flooding, and oftentimes the elevator, the electricity goes out, so the elevator gets stuck. And what did they do? They started training teams. The NAACP chapter started training young people in community emergency response so that they could then be their legs and feet going up and down those stairs in sort of a relay fashion to help the elders who were on the high floors and nobody else could get to them. So we've got to begin to be a prepared force. And we've got to begin to say to PARA, say to Chief, get us involved in your exercises. You know, every city, every county, every state, even the federal government, we exercise, we drill on these things. And we were so happy Mr. Luke was able to attend a drill at a house of worship last week. But tell them you want to be part of those drills too. Because not only do you want to know what to do yourself, but you want to understand what government is doing so that you don't become a disaster within a disaster. Let me tell you a story from my own faith tradition. It's the story of Elisha and the pot of stew. How many of you know that story? Some of you know it. My brother knows it. In that story, you had a prophet who in the time of famine was helping people figure out how to survive. He told the people, go out and get herbs and what have you so we can make a pot of stew. Of course, in a disaster, everybody needs to eat. So everybody went out, right? We're all with such great intention. We want to help. We went out and we started picking stuff for the pot of stew and putting it in the pot. And then the prophet, he begins to stir the pot because he, wants to get the stew ready, and he looks in the pot. He was a man of great wisdom and knowledge, and he said, there is death in this pot. Somebody, well-intentioned, wanting to help, went and had picked a poison herb and put it in the pot without knowing it. Had not the prophet, the prophetic voice, had the vision to see that there was something wrong with that stew, there would have been a disaster within a disaster. So we want our leaders to be prepared, to know what to do, to be able to tell the people, for instance, when we don't need stuff sent over there because that area of the community is in need. Or we don't need to take in a whole lot of people and become a shelter without having first communicated with the Red Cross, because we might end up with a big problem in our facility. Or we don't want to send people out to help people without, particularly the elders and people with small children, without them having been background checked ahead of time. You see what I'm saying? So we need you all to not only be a prophetic voice, but we need you to be a prepared voice, a prepared force, so that you know how to work appropriately with government in these times. And thirdly, we need you to be a platform for resilience. What do I mean by that? When I was coming up, I used to play with this inflatable clown that had lead on the bottom. Do y'all still have that? Those things? Have you seen those? You have one? So they're still in suffering? I thought then, let those go with my favorite Martian or something like that. But anyway, these inflatable clowns with lead on the bottom, you hit it and it bounced back. Hit it and it bounced back. Sometimes I would hit that clown so hard it would bounce back and hit me. That is my definition of resilience. That when something hits you, you're able to bounce back even harder, even better, even farther than when you first got hit. And our houses of worship can be great platforms for resilience, for helping people be ready to bounce back from the tragedies that will come, even harder, even better than when they got hit. First and foremost, you're a spiritual force. So you can speak to the people in a place that maybe government cannot. As the mayor said, the government is often not inspirational, right? There may be some people, I know the president is very inspirational, so I won't say that about everybody, but there may be an inspiration that someone needs from you in a time of crisis that will help them bounce back. If you're prepared as a facility, there may be a place that you can provide to a family or an individual or someone with an access or functional need that can help them bounce back. If you have a big parking lot or a big garage where you can distribute commodities, maybe you can provide a package of hope, a package of help in time of someone's need that will help them bounce back. So you can be a prophetic voice, you can be a prepared force, you can be a platform for resilience. And I was told by Mr. Khan that there are some people in here today who also want to pledge to prepare. Now this event today, Leslie, if I'm right, is the first event, official event of the Pledge to Prepare. So thank you for that. Thank you for being our first. So with that, there's going to be a press conference on June 5th. Maybe Leslie talked about that a little bit. And we want to invite as many of you to join Mr. Khan and others to come. I believe even one of your council people is going to be there. But I want to ask you a question. These young people are standing here. They've given the high five. They said, I'm going to pledge to prepare. If you're willing to do that in your own faith community, I want you to stand right now. If you're willing to make a pledge to prepare, if you can't stand, just raise your hand. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it, because we don't want to be dependent on somebody that's not ready themselves, all right? And I want you to turn to the person to your left or to your right or behind you and just take their hand. And the young people do it too. And just tell one another, I'm going to pledge to prepare.
I'm going to pledge to prepare.
Not only for myself,
but
for my community.
For my community.
I'm going to pledge to prepare. Not only for myself, but for my community. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scott, for inspiring your inspiration. Wasn't she inspirational?
Y'all about to give me a talk beer now.
Say takbir, you got it? I want to thank Dr. Scott, and she's an example of President Obama's wisdom to appoint such a great ambassador to represent him. And you know, God made this earth to shake. If we don't realize that, we're not living in this world. God has designed California to shake. And when it does shake, those who are prepared will help themselves and help the community. So we all took the pledge to prepare. And Shoda, where's Shoda? Shoda also is asking us to do the pledge for the CPR. Thank you very much. You definitely have to thank the catalyst. This is how this event occurred. I went to Reverend Janet's event, the Church of Scientology, which was similar to this. That was an inspiration, thank you. Then I met Dr. Scott almost a year now, and we've been talking about community partnerships, so finally, thank you, Dr. Scott. And then the catalyst is the next person who's going to say thank you to everyone, is Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, please come up. Brother Terry Walker, when I met him at the Church of Scientology, he followed up, called me. First, Dr. Scott followed up, and then she said, oh, we have to embrace Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, she called him right away. He became the catalyst, so This event would not have happened without Dr. Scott, the inspiration from Reverend Wyland, and yourself, sir.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, it's difficult to go behind all this greatness right here. I mean, I'm right after Dr. Scott. I mean, that was a big hero. But my name is Terry Walker. I'm a disabled Gulf War veteran. I was in the Gulf War. I need not give you a basic overview about how preparedness, whatever, because everybody has given us that information, but I will tell you what I do. I'm the president of CPAC, which is Community Emergency Preparedness Action Center, and our mission statement is, we've been doing this for about 6 years. Our mission statement is we do the greater good for the greater number. That's what we do. One of our specialties, we specialize, hopefully trying to get that together, in neighborhood disaster plans. Our mission is to have neighborhoods be prepared. Because I give you an example, the area that I live in, for years, the neighbors, we don't really know each other. So if we have the opportunity to know each other as neighbors, we can help each other and protect each other as well. Also, one of our specialties is we like to deal with the elderly. I mean, so I'm creating a team where people can knock on that door and see what's happening with the elderly. So we're going to deal with that also. Also, I've been standing on the corner for years. I've been standing on the corner. I stand on the corner and I give people information on preparedness, Lamarck Park, all of South Central, Miami, Louisiana. And I thank God for FEMA, because FEMA gives me all that material. I don't have no money to get that material, so FEMA gives me that material, so I thank God for FEMA. We love the church. Now, as far as Red Cross is concerned, I'm a part of Red Cross DAC, Disaster Action Team. Key West, Miami. I'm a part of the Pompano Beach Fire Rescue, CERT Community Emergency Response Team, Pompano Beach, Florida. I'm a part of CERT, Catch Bossier, Department of Homeland Security. I have been through that program. I'm also a part of the Crisis Response Team in the Mayor's Office as well. So this is what we do, this is what we like to do, and also I'm going to give you something before we leave. Please take all the material that you have. This is excellent material for FEMA, and this material is help after disaster. And also I'm going to give you some free kits that I have, so I left that information for you, so take it. God bless you. I appreciate you. And what can I say is that when I was in a part of Hurricane Isaac, the church was there. At every mission, the church is always there. So we need to educate ourselves properly as far as dealing with the church. And thank you very much. God bless. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Without Brother Terry Walker, we wouldn't have got here, so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'd like to close with Mr. Nuri, who was one of the founding board members here. Thank everyone.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you each and every one of you to stop by here, especially Sunday morning, because this is the time to spend with the family. We had heard quite a few people here. One thing I will tell you, that first thing we need to do is to learn and implement whatever we learn today in our life first before we go out and teach other people. So I hope everybody is ready to implement in our life first. Yeah. And Jazakallah khair, thank you very much for coming by again, and I'm going to have Brother Nuri to say something.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessing Allah to all of you. Thank you very much for coming in here. I hope we see you again. Great. Thank you very much for all your leaders in here. Thank you. And on behalf of our mosque and our leadership in here, and also our community, from bottom of our heart, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
And don't forget to sign up, to get the alerts. And thank you very much for participating and attending and give us your words. Thank you, Dr. Scott.